On this very same broadcast yesterday on 5 Live, we broke the news about Russia's big peace offer, offering to de-escalate drastically in two big cities of Kyiv and Chernihiv. The whiff of hope 35 days into the Ukraine war, however, have simply evaporated. Russia had pledged to stop its military offensive near the capital city of Kyiv and focus on the rebel-held strongholds of Donbas in the east, calling it a de-escalation and not an outright ceasefire. But both Ukraine and the country's Western backers, including the United States, have expressed total skepticism and rejected this peace offer. They've said buying Putin's peace pledges is to indulge in naivety. Rejecting this de-escalation and seeking proof of reduced hostilities in the battle zone is a priority. Zelenskyy is basically saying full ceasefire or nothing at all.
Amid mayhem of Ukraine war, early signs of a possible breakthrough after Russia offers scaled-down Kyiv operations, asserting that its troops will now focus on rebel stronghold of Donbas, calling the move de-escalation and not ceasefire.
The main objective of the first phase of the operation have largely been achieved. Combat potential of Ukrainian armed forces has been substantially degraded, allowing us to focus our main attention and main efforts on achieving the primary goal of liberating Donbas.
But war-battered Ukraine remains extremely cautious of Russian intentions. It believes Russia is merely regrouping in the east to pile up military forces, while in South Kremlin plans to resume offensive, calling the partial pullout from Kyiv and Chernihiv a sham action.
What we hear from the negotiating platform, we can say the signals are positive, but these signals do not silence the explosion of Russian shells. Of course, we see all the risks. We see no reason to trust the words of certain representatives of a state that continues to fight for our destruction. Ukrainians are not naive people. Ukrainians have already learned during these 34 days of invasion and over the last 8 years of the war in Donbas that only a concrete result can be trusted.
Ukraine's cautious stance is echoed by the United States too. President Joe Biden said that Putin will be under watch for what he does on the war front, irrespective of peace noises.
There are negotiations that have begun today, or not begun, continued today, one in Turkey and others. I had a meeting with the heads of state of our 4 allies in NATO. But in the meantime, we're going to continue to keep strong the sanctions. We're going to continue to provide the Ukrainian military with their capacity to defend themselves. And we're going to continue to keep a close eye on what's going on.
During the peace talks, Ukraine has proposed to adopt neutrality by dumping its ambition to join NATO, only if its security is guaranteed by the West. Kyiv says it is ready to sidestep question of Crimea and breakaway region of Donbas in lieu of EU membership, almost echoing Zelenskyy's past climb down on NATO membership.
The NATO members should clearly say that they are not admitting us. It's the truth. They don't want to fight with Russia. That's why they don't take us. The answer is clear, and we all understand everything. They are afraid of Russia.
Will the so-called softening of stance lead to peace? Or is it just a lull before fresh all-out combat? With Geeta Mohan in Mariupol and Gaurav Sawant in Kyiv, Bureau Report, India Today.
So basically, after 35 days of fighting and very, very intense military operation, Russia appears to be reassessing its war goals. Moscow has started shifting its troops from the capital city of Kyiv and Chernihiv to eastern Ukraine, where it wants to focus all its military strength. Russia says it will now completely focus on liberating eastern Ukraine's Donbas region. Will Ukraine compromise on Donbas for overall peace in the country? That's one of the scenarios we're looking at. Take a look at this report.
After a month of intense fighting, losing hundreds of soldiers, facing global sanctions, Russia is reassessing its goals. Moscow has started withdrawing its troops partially from the area around the capital city of Kyiv and Chernihiv. Ukraine's military claims Russia is shifting their troops to the eastern front. The move comes after Moscow said it would now focus completely on liberating eastern Ukraine's Donbas region.
Считаем безответственной позицию Запада.
The main objective of the first phase of the operation have largely been achieved. Combat potential of Ukrainian armed forces has been substantially degraded, allowing us to focus our main attention and main effects on achieving the primary goal of liberating Donbas.
Strategically, the Donbas region is very important to Moscow. Ukraine's Luhansk and Donetsk jointly make up the Donbas region along with the Russian border. Controlling Donbas means domination over the Sea of Azov. It would also help Putin to extend Moscow's domination over Crimea, which Moscow annexed back in 2014. But the big reason why Russia wants to focus more on Donbas could be the reverses suffered in Ukraine. The Russian forces haven't been able to achieve their objectives as swiftly as expected because of stiff resistance. Donbas could be Putin's way out of the Ukraine quagmire without admitting defeat. Right before launching the full-scale invasion of Ukraine, Putin had recognized the two breakaway regions, Donetsk and Luhansk, as independent states. The self-declared republics are not recognized by any governments other than Moscow and its close ally Syria. Ukraine claims 93% of Luhansk and 54% of Donetsk is controlled by rebels now. Any truce between Russia and Ukraine would hinge on some give and take around Donbas. Bureau Report, India Today.
And let's get a word and a perspective in from India Today's Rajesh Pawar. He joins us live from Kyiv. Rajesh is a Special Forces veteran and a journalist now, so he's got a perspective on what's happening on the ground and also the larger implications of this, sort of peace push being rejected by the West and by Ukraine. Rajesh, Ukraine was always expected to be skeptical about Russia's, announcement that it was going to de-escalate drastically in Chernihiv and Kyiv. Now, Zelenskyy has said Ukraine is not that naive. We're looking for a complete ceasefire. There appears to have been some pullout of equipment and vehicles from the Russian side in both these areas, in line with what they had announced yesterday. Where are these going to be headed and what are the implications? What next, Rajesh?
Look, Shiv, as we spoke yesterday, and I said nothing much is expected out of these talks, and it happened like this. And Russia would have never agreed for a complete ceasefire. Nothing was signed yesterday, in fact, in Istanbul. But what Russia unilaterally declared that to create a good atmosphere, they will be reducing their military activities around Kyiv and Chernihiv. But we saw last night, just a few hours after announcing this, there were about 5 blasts in Kyiv outskirts last night and 5 today morning. I'm just not sure who fired this, but most likely because there were air raid sirens, so it was most likely from the Russian side. Also, the kind of suspicion both the parties have towards each other, this doesn't look like conducive for any kind of talks. And as far as the military presence of Russians is concerned, the American intelligence has issued a report saying that Russians are not withdrawing away from Kyiv. They are in fact using this time to regroup and redeploy. So it looks like that whatever Russia promised did not do, at least as far as Kyiv is concerned. And this is the reason why Ukrainians, rightly so, do not trust them so much. Shiv.
Is this going to see a commensurate intensification of operations in the east, Rajesh?
See, East Russia will not stop till the time they have 100% of Donbas. That's very certain, very, very, very clear. And they made it clear in no uncertain terms. They've been making it clear. So they will not stop in the East as long as they have 100% of Donbas, of which Mariupol town, where we saw such a humanitarian disaster is a part of Donetsk Republic, which is part of Donbass. So they will not stop this. And as per the reports are coming, if you see, there is a small town, if you see on the map, between Mariupol and Odessa, Kherson and Odessa, Nikolaev.
Yes.
And there were reports of missile attack on the town last night also, and Russian army has made advances in that direction along the coast of Black Sea towards Odessa. So indications are Russian army will not stop anytime soon. Shiv.
Through your networks, one final question, Rajesh. You say they're not going to stop until there's 100% control over the Donbass region. Where is Russia right now on that scale? How far away are they from total control of Donbass?
Look, Shiv, there have been reports off and all, but generally from British and American intelligence, it's difficult to trust them 100%, that Russian forces are facing huge problem with regards to supplies, supplying of ammunition, supplying of spare parts, supplying of rations for the troops, and there has been a command and control problems in the Russian army. Now, this is the information from the American and British intelligence. How true it is, we do not know. But yes, it looks like that the momentum which they had in the initial phase of the war, initial days of the war, it was somewhere broken in the last 1.5 weeks, and maybe it is an opportunity for them when they say the first phase of operation is over, maybe they are regrouping for a second phase of operation, especially in the south and the east. And one more last thing.
Yes.
I'm right now in the media center of Kyiv in Ukraine, of Ministry of Defense, and there'll be a colonel who will be briefing us on the latest military situation all over Ukraine, and I'll be able to brief you better once I've finished with this press conference here. Sure.
Okay, super. So we'll connect with you right after that press conference. Appreciate it, Rajesh. Thanks very much for being with me and getting us those details on the latest that we have at this time. So that's important information. There is going to be a Ukrainian press conference in just a short moment from now. But what happens next is a broad question. With this peace offer by Russia to de-escalate on the table being rejected by Ukraine, these are the possible scenarios. The stalemate continues. No ceasefire. It's likely that Russia de-escalates. Ukraine agrees to being neutral. Likely partition of Ukraine is also, being seen as likely. The partition of Ukraine and Donbass liberated is also being seen as likely. A decisive victory for Russia at this point of time appears to look pretty unlikely, considering that they've already lost a record number of soldiers and vehicles and aircraft and all kinds of military hardware already in a war that was, by most accounts, expected to be completed in a matter of days. This has become a grinding operation now, and there doesn't appear to be any possibility of a decisive victory for Putin on the table. Now, you just heard Rajesh mentioning Mariupol, one of the big cities of the Donetsk region, which has been witnessing these very, very fierce fights. India today is now in Mariupol for world-exclusive access and coverage in a city that has been completely devastated by shelling on both sides, both Ukrainian and Russian shelling. And India Today's Geeta, reporting from Mariupol, is now en route to another area in the northern part of the Donbass region, Gorlovka, that's on the northern front, where a raging battle is currently underway. On the way to Gorlovka, India Today's Geeta Mohan found this smashed Russian T-72 tank that was attacked by the Ukrainian forces. Here's some of the fearless reporting she's doing on the ground.
Fierce fighting is underway in Gorlovka, which is in the northern side of Donetsk. And Alex, again over here, Alexander, Satya and Sasha are traveling with us. A very tough road, and we had to take a few detours because of security concerns. There's fighting on in some other roads. So Alex, being very careful, has been speaking with the military officials to ensure that we take a safe route. Alex, what's the situation in Gorlovka right now?
Gorlovka was under shelling previous day, and also we have information that today the shelling came to civilian areas. Gorlovka was under control of Donetsk People's Republic for 8 years from the beginning of a conflict, and during all of this time Ukrainians are shelling the civilian area in Gorlovka because their positions is very close to that city, and the city have strategical interests.
Right. The city has strategic interests. It's on the north of Donetsk, so a very critical area once again. Sasha is our man with the military contact, so we do not face any problems. There is an absolute need and necessity to have the right people with you to ensure that you have access to these areas. So we'll be reporting from Gorlovka in some time from now. A very difficult route and a detour that we've taken to ensure that we reach there safely. On the way to Gorlovka, Geeta Mohan for India Today. Amid massive shelling and bombardment over here, we found this tank, a Russian tank that was hit by the Ukrainian side. We are in one of the undisclosed locations where these tanks are being brought in. They will be repaired, is what officials and officers over here are saying, and then sent back to the front. So massive damage being caused by both sides, the Ukrainian forces as also the Russian side, when it comes to the war that is underway between Russia and Ukraine. One such tank over here, but there are many that come for repair over here, and then once repaired, they're sent back to the front line. With video journalist Shiv Aroor on the way to Gorlovka, Geeta Mohan for India Today.